Hi and welcome to our latest edition of Get in the Habit podcast with myself, David Finch, and my co-host, Sue Allsworth. And Sue, would you like to introduce our lovely guest for this week?
Hi Dave, hi everyone listening and watching. And this week we have got a delightful soul energy, beautiful beaming smile if you're able to watch it on YouTube, of Lorraine Prescott. Welcome, Lorraine.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Dave. Lovely to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh no, we connected throughout the lockdown, the summit lockdowns that I did, and love your energy, love what you do. So tell us a little bit about what it is you do, because you're in the movement sort of healthcare, safe, with your Club Chi, and but a slightly different angle to what we've had on before. So tell us a little bit more about who you are.
So who am I? So There's two elements really to how I work. So I have the healing tree, which is where I use holistic therapies, life coaching, and work with people predominantly one-to-one. So lockdown, that was a bit of a spanner in the works and trying to pivot around. And then there's Club Chi, which originally was going to be part of the healing tree as a movement therapy aspect. And then my husband was interested in it as well. And so we ended up training together. And so Club Chi grew as its own entity. So within the healing tree, I work with people with hands-on therapies, energy therapies, and talking therapies. And then Club Chi
Is that us? Is that me, Dave? Is that?
I think it's Lorraine, actually. I think she's frozen on us. Yeah.
Hold
the
on.
wonders of internet,
Love it.
Doing our broadcasting on internet.
Did I freeze?
You froze for a moment there, Lorraine. Don't worry.
Lead a wiggle.
No, we got to you and your husband train together.
Right. And then I just went.
Yeah.
Then I just,
never mind.
so attentively listening.
Yeah.
So just to recap, so Club Chi basically evolved as its own entity, sort of with me and Ian. So it within the healing tree, I work with people with hands-on therapies, talking therapies, and energy therapies, and then Club Chi is movement therapies, and now that we're back in person sessions, we've got our sound therapies as well, so with the gong baths. So predominantly with the movement therapy, it's Shibashi Qigong that we practice. So it's got its roots in medical Qigong. So it's very much health and wellness focused. Each session is complete in itself, that you don't, somebody could turn up one week and they might not be able to make the next couple. They're not going to get left behind because you're not learning a form, So it's almost just enables people in that hour or 30 minutes, whatever the length of session, just to honour themselves with that time to connect with their breath, just to connect to themselves. And it's so special. And now that we're back to in-person sessions, we've got the gong baths and we're doing a fusion session. So we're calling it Qigong. So we start with the Qigong to get everybody just to relax, release that tension, to start tuning into themselves. Then we get them just to lay down, relax, and absorb the sound therapy from a gong bath.
So it sounds amazing, doesn't it? It really does.
It's lovely. Yeah. And it's a privilege to be able to work with people in completely different ways. I always say that there's no one size fits all, and that, one person might not want to be touched, whether it be their feet, a massage, anything like that. They might not want to talk, but movement therapy might be their inroad to be able to process their emotions, or to get in that better space. So I love having variety. I love having options. That's my myometer, and so I like to offer that to clients as well.
Yeah.
So variety is the spice of life, as they say, Lorraine. And I'm very much the same. I trained in chakra dancing because I wanted to have a physical aspect to be able to sometimes, before you get to the talking and the journaling and that side of it, the body's got to unlock it on a different level, on a cellular level, and you need movement of some description, whether it be yoga, qigong, and there's all sorts. But we forget that our body stores a lot of that trauma as well. You know, we work on the mind and the soul maybe, but we sometimes forget, and we work on the body as in diet or food and that quite often, but not actually as in cell memory restore. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I had, just a little sort of insight, a story. When I used to work for a drug and alcohol counselling service, and so I'd be providing the complementary therapies there. And there was one client that I've been seeing for ages, and during a massage, I was massaging his shoulders, and he goes, 1 minute it was all serene, and then it was like a car crash. And all of these memories started coming up, and we'd been massaging the back for ages, but it was just at that point it was nearer the surface to be released. So it's, the body holds so much, doesn't it?
That's amazing. Yeah. Lorraine, let me ask you, at the moment with situations are different around the country, and I know I'm in Wales, you're in England, so are you finding people are actually coming back now face to face? Are they happy to do that?
Yes, absolutely. And I think, you're always going to get different camps, aren't you? But I found that clients were keen to come and see me one-to-one, just feeling the effects of the lockdown. And especially with Club Chi, with our in-person sessions, yes, they can do it online, but it's that connection and an energy connection in the room, isn't it, as well, as you're all working in that energy field of movement meditation. So I think, people have been keen to make that real connection again, I think.
Yeah, I love the idea, the way you've combined your Tai Chi and Qigong with your gong baths. In fact, in the past, I don't know if Sue mentioned it to you, but I run a therapy centre in South Wales, and in the past we've had Tai Chi, and in the past we've had gong baths, and the way you've combined those two together, I think is actually really amazing, because I'm thinking back that the experience people would have got at that time would actually be fantastic, to have a bit of Tai Chi and then have a gong bath. That's like, wow, it really ticks all the boxes.
Absolutely, really absolutely. And it just sort of, there's nothing wrong with each thing as a standalone. But again, it's just sort of like on that energy level of what people can gain when you bring other elements in.
Yeah, really clever. How did you come up with that idea? It was just something that, just evolved, or you thought, oh, I've seen someone else do it, or what?
No, basically me and Ian, we go out for these long country walks, and we call them our team meetings. And it probably came from one of those, that we would then, because originally, again, the idea was just a gong bath. And it must have been through something we were talking about, and then the name, Qigong, So it's sort of like, so it just evolved, I think, just from one of our chats together.
Yeah, I love the fact that you go out for a walk and have a team meeting. Yeah. That's brilliant, isn't it?
Our Sunday morning team meeting.
Yeah.
Just no minutes are taken, so by the time we get home, we've got like, what were we saying?
Yeah. My dining table was a bit like that in the house. We used to have a bit of a standing joke in the house that if you want to start a new business, just sit at the dining table, and all those business ideas come up. We've come up with some crazy ones in the past.
Absolutely,
I'm doing it now. It's like,
But I love that, because it becomes, doesn't it, that almost like the mind and the body start connecting. Right, we're in this space. This is now this creative space. So I love that, Dave.
It really is. It's and in the past, I think some of the crazy ideas we've had. My poor wife, she goes along with them. I don't know if she goes along, here he goes, another one of his crazy ideas, or whether she really just actually go along with them.
Do you know, I'd never thought of that. There, I think, like, Ian's on the same page as me. Might just thinking, here she goes again.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, because that's what she does with me. And then I go off and do it, and it's almost like as if I'm using her as a sounding board. I'm going to do this. I can remember the therapy centre's called The Retreat. I had a little office first, and then I saw this place, and I don't know if you ever saw Ghostbusters, but if you ever seen Ghostbusters, they go into this really old building, and it's falling down, and it's a real mess. And then all of a sudden, Dan Aykroyd slides down this tube thing, like it's an old fire station. And he goes, this place is amazing. We've got to move in, And that's how I was with this place. When I came in, and the landlord was showing me around, right? And it was just an empty office. It was just an empty office building. It's got well, I had 6 rooms downstairs and a big loft building upstairs, you know. And I got upstairs, and as I walked into the loft, I felt like Dan Aykroyd. I went, "This is amazing!" And he went, "I always remember his face." He went, "Is it?" And I went, "Yeah, it really is."
Oh, I love
In my
that.
head, I could see what it is now, you know. Well,
Yeah.
it's evolved a few times, to be honest. So I see what it was then, but even then, it's evolved again. And I think sometimes we have to have that vision in life, you know, and you've done that. And I think that's fantastic, you know.
Yeah, no, and I want to get to where you are, Dave. This is what we want, is like our own space, you know, sort of that it's own centre in itself. But yeah,
Yeah.
one day.
I tell you, it has lots of ups and downs, though, Lorraine.
I bet.
Be ready for the ups and be ready for the downs, you know.
Strap myself in.
Yeah, but overall, it's very worthwhile. You know, I wouldn't change it. I'd have more ups than I would have downs, but you know, that's life, isn't it? You know,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
that's
yeah,
life.
yeah.
But
So,
yeah, you're right.
Lorraine, do you have habits? Do you do gongs every day for yourself? What are within your practices, what you do? What are your daily habits? How do you embrace how do you embrace and walk your talk? I suppose it is, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say, it is walking the talk, isn't it? And
Mm.
I'm a with clients, sort of like one-to-one clients, I'm not always going on, but I always go on about hydration. That is to me, that is, I think, my biggest habit. It's like, yeah, you know, it's always that, got to have that bottle of water on the go, got to make sure you're hydrated. So I think that would probably be joint top of the list. And then I'm always sort of saying about, you know, a big believer in like gratitudes and affirmations. And so every morning I will go through a whole mantra and, you know, sort of thanking sort of spirit and everything for the day ahead, and all of that about sort of, yeah, what I want to manifest in my life, you know. And I have like a little list of goals and stuff there, sort of like, you know, manifestations that I want to bring into my life. So that would be like a daily morning practice. In the evening, I will do, and I know people have like different schools of thought, don't they, with the journaling, you know, sort of like your gratitudes. And I don't write mine down. And again, you know, that impact of writing, sort of like definitely with that. But I will do, you know, sort of be in bed, having a little read. And then before I actually fall asleep, I will go through what I've been grateful for that day and listing everything. So it'd be sort of, you know, grateful for, you know, X client, you know, grateful for the sunshine, grateful for, you know, sort of such and such that sort of went well. You know, it can be big or small, whatever it is, but just, yeah, you know, and invariably I'm getting up to sort of like, you know, sort of 20 plus things that I've been grateful for just in that day. And then, yeah, and I think that helps you to fall asleep soundly, you know, with that peace of mind.
That's lovely. That, yeah, really good thing.
Yeah,
Good practice to do.
when I was beginning to do a lot of these techniques and tools, I was using journaling probably more than I do now, because mine's more of a mental habit now. And I think that's a natural evolution to some degree, because it shows that it is a habit, because you find yourself just naturally doing it. But that doesn't mean to say that every now and then I'll do something that's a vision board or a writing or something, just to acknowledge and honor, because it has its place in itself, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
But yeah, just sitting there at the end of that day, I quite often have a little notepad. Well, in the days of when I was doing, because I'm in a very non-doing stage of my life at the moment, but in the days when I was doing, I'd have a little notebook, so that because quite often it would be just when I'm starting to fall asleep, a lot of my creative ideas would come in, and it was so annoying. So I would have to either text them to myself. I learned I've got to write them down or text them to myself, because I wouldn't be able to sleep with them
Yeah.
flitted around. I had to park them and say,
Yes.
at least then the brain knew, right, it's not forgotten, but we can deal with it tomorrow, sort of thing. But yeah, quite annoyingly, right at night time was when it was almost as if when you're sort of tired, your ego gets out of the way even more, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And that's when everything can almost come flowing through even more freely and fluidly.
Yeah.
But you're too knackered to write the idea down. But saying, "Oh, I'll remember that in the morning," and then in the morning thinking, "Bugger, what was that?" idea. So it's getting in that habit of, when an idea comes, even how knackered I am, pop it down.
And like you said, you know, and I think that, you know, where you're not having to come to in a complete sense, like you said, if the pen and paper's just there, even if it's some like random scribble, you can sort of make out the words a little bit, that it's enough to remember, isn't it? Because the times that, like you said, that you get that idea and you're like, right, okay, I'll try and remember that. And then in the morning, you're like, what was that? That was such a good idea.
Mm.
And you're like, you've just got to then go, it will come back. It will come back at some point. And then you remember when you're with a client or something, you're just mid-massage and you're like, oh no, I've got it.
I mean, it is one of those habits. We always think, oh, I'll remember that later, because we think we will. And I don't know about you guys, but the older we get, that is definitely not true for me anymore. I'll remember that later is right out of the window these days. I'll remember that I've forgotten something, but that is it. So having that, you know, that getting in that habit for honoring what it, you know, if it is, even if it is something, if you're able to, I just text myself something, even if I'm in mid, oh, hang on, I've just got to do something, and I will actually stop, because I don't want it to be forgotten, to not honor it or acknowledge it, and what have you. So yeah, and late at night, I've even woken up, thought of something, and then text myself sort of half asleep. And then in the morning, I think, oh, I've got a friend, and because I've forgotten that I've texted myself.
You're lucky you don't send it to someone else, really, I suppose, about 3 o'clock in the morning, you know. Oh, I just text myself this, and actually send it to someone randomly in your address book, you know.
Yeah.
What's this all about?
A random message from me, you know, just ignore it.
Yeah.
I'll forward it back onto you, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're right though, Sue, because it's like you said, the ego's got out of the way. So there's that space, isn't there? Which again, it comes into with the Qigong, you know, that you're releasing tension. So you're creating space for the energy to flow. You know, that same thing, isn't it? When we get into that different energy state, there is that flow, you know, whether it be ideas, whether it be, you know, energy, whether it be circulation, you know, it's, yeah. And that is such a nice place to be in, but sometimes you just want to time it that it's just before you actually fall asleep.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, it is terrible, but I mean, when you're tired, you don't judge yourself so much, because you're tired and your brain's not focused on that. And it is when maybe that's why I like walking around in a constant state of tiredness. Maybe that's why I've got CFS, chronic fatigue syndrome.
Yeah.
I've manifested myself a constant state of well, power of the word, who knows. We're laughing, but there's probably some mad theory.
There's probably some truth in that.
Yes. All of that. I'm very aware of that right now. But it is, for me, it would be, yeah, very annoyingly sort of that late last night. And when I was, you know, going through different processes, I've had my gratitude moments. Gratitude's my go-to, like you, Lorraine, but if I knew I was in a place where I needed some forgiveness, I'd always end the day with, who do I need to forgive today?
Nice.
Because that, if you're in a place where you're feeling angry and resentful and judgy and can't let these things go and move into acceptance, then forgiveness is your only outlet to go to. It's the only one to go to. And so I would be ending my days of, who do I need to forgive today? And even if I couldn't embrace it fully, it would just be to acknowledge that I've struggled with that person or that situation, or I'm aware that I'm still attached to that. So if you're still attached emotionally, you're not there with the forgiveness sort of thing. So it's important. And as I say, you don't have to write these things down. It can be a mental thing, and it's almost like a heart exercise, isn't it, really?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think that it's like giving thanks, isn't it? You know, and I love the thing of forgiveness as well, you know, because sometimes we have those tough days, don't we? And just sort of, and even if it's to forgive yourself for being in that mood or to feel in that certain way, you know, I think this is the thing that screws a lot of us up, don't we? We beat ourselves up with so much things. We hold on to so much stuff that we're just clogged, and we need to let go. We need to lighten the load, don't we?
I mean, there are many different types of depression. I am not a medical person, and I know that there are clinical, physiological, hormonal problems. But a lot of what I call general depression is exactly what you've just said, Lorraine. It's a clog up of all of those more lower negative vibrational feelings that we just don't know what to do with and how to release them. Because if they're not there, you're not going to feel so bad.
Yes, absolutely. And interesting you saying that, Sue, actually, because where you asked Dave about, how sort of things have been, in terms of people wanting to sort of like connect sort of post-lockdown, that after the first lockdown, I had a lot of new inquiries, people are wanting Reiki, which that doesn't tend to be a first go-to, it would be like massage, something more hands-on. And I thought that's really interesting that people are aware of their energies being different. And like you said, either that heavier energy and just maybe not being able to pinpoint, but just like something doesn't feel right. I don't feel right. And I don't like how I feel. And wanting to shift that. So they've looked into it and, come up with Reiki. Yeah. But it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, people are interested. It's a fascinating subject.
That's what makes the job so good, isn't it? Everybody's different. But, I get that when you say people, certainly with the different lockdowns, people still seem to be, they need something. They need that connection, with certainly for the last 18 months or so, lived our life on Zoom as we are today, but people still crave that physical connection. And I've seen that with the therapy centre opening back up again. People are now coming to the centre and they're quite happy to come to the centre. They want to come.
Yes.
I offer them, I say to them, what do you want? Do you want a Zoom session or do you want face-to-face? No, I want to come, because they want that physical connection with someone. Even just, even you need to get too close to someone, but you've got that connection with someone in a room. Yeah. And it really is, I think it's been a big thing for lots of people to be disconnected for quite a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And Zoom and all of that has definitely served a purpose, and it's been brilliant to have this as an option. Can you imagine the lockdowns if all of this wasn't in place?
Oh, mate, yeah.
But I just think people have I did a post actually a little while ago about what was it called? It was like touch starvation or something, and that is very much how it's been, that we haven't been able to be with each other or even in the same space as each other. We haven't been able to hug our friends and family and that sort of thing. And over time we are social creatures, aren't we? Yeah. And so I think we need to sort of like be able to regroup. But I think also for people not to put pressure on themselves just because things are opening up, that, oh, well, now I've got to do this, and things all become sort of too busy and they're not at that point of readiness,
that it is interesting, because I mean, I've been lucky. I've been able to hug my family throughout, my parents, and I've got a lot of people saying, oh, friends, we can meet up and have a hug. And I'm like, no, we can't. We can meet up, but I'm still not going around. I'm not hugging everyone. I'm being very particular. I think when I lived in Peru, every greeting was a hug and a kiss. And to some degree, you open yourself up too much doing that. So I'm actually thinking, right, it's not that hugs aren't for free, but I am going to be a bit more careful energetically about if, like, going back, as we were saying, Dave, if I don't want to physically hug someone, I will heart hug them and sort of do a welcome that way. But I'm not going around spreading my hugs, because that's not, I'm still very particular, apart from my parents and my neighbour, who's been in our bubble ever since, because she's in her 80s, and I was her replacement for family for hugs throughout lockdown, and still am at the moment, because she still hasn't, because they're all in different bubbles. But the only person I've been able to hug is my primary school, second year primary school teacher. I was able to visit her in the care home last week, and I was told I was allowed to have a little hug, so I had many little hugs. I was like, well, if we go in for a penny, in for a pound. And it wasn't a hug. It was more of a hold. I made sure that our hearts, our chests, I kept my face away. Obviously, I'm all masked up, gloved up, kept my face away, and I've had a test as well beforehand. But made sure that our chests were together so that our hearts could sort of beat. And I just held her until that moment, and you'll know this for Lorraine and that, until that she went and really gave into it. And then we held it even. That's when it was even special, because I had to get her to sort of breathe into that hug to start with. And then when she let go, that's when the tears came for both of us.
And isn't it, you know, like you said, you know, we could do that superficial hug, but that's scraping the surface again, isn't it? Like, yeah. You know, and talking all of this and with habits, this is what I'm hoping all of this easing of lockdown doesn't, that people don't forget that tranquility of that first lockdown or the other ones, you know. And I know the last one has been a bit more tough for people with it being over the winter and everything, but just having that time to go out for walks, to connect with nature, you know, that I hope that people don't forget that. And that has become a new habit for them through this past year or so. You know, I think there's part of me that thinks, oh, people are just too keen to get back to normal, that gets pushed back to the wayside, you know. But I hope that there's a higher percentage than what I'm thinking that will still hold on to that. So they have created that new habit that, you know, they didn't have time for before, but now they can't do without.
Well, it's almost like, I think that's where I'm feeling a bit at the moment. It's like we all created new habits to get through last year. Some of them stick, some of them didn't. They served the purpose for that time. But now that things are slowly opening up, we have got this opportunity to say, well, what habits do I want to have going into this new world? What do I not want to go back into? Because otherwise, a year, believe it or not, or it sounds like a lot, but believe it or not, a year is a blink in the eye in time. It is no time at all. And so you will quite easily fall back into old habits and routines, to the old pattern of life. And it will take a conscious decision, a mindful decision to go, actually, no, do you know what? I do want to get up and go out for a walk every morning. So I've either got to get up earlier or I make my work start later, because that's something that I don't want to sacrifice, because I've enjoyed that and it's really helped me, my mental health, whatever it is, you know. So it's having the confidence to go, actually, no, I don't want to give that up.
Yeah, just because the normality returns and that, you know, everything's open doesn't mean we have to then get back to where we were a year and a half ago. You know, like you said, time has moved on. And it's like, yeah, what serves you? Have that life evaluation, isn't it? You know, what have you gained? You know, what have you missed? How can you bring all that together and create that new fusion of what your life looks like?
Yeah, and it's perfect. Oh, Lorraine, it has been delightful having you on Anchor, and we haven't caught up for ages, so it's been absolutely lovely just to see your face again.
I know.
And whereabouts in the country are you? You're only up the road from me, aren't you?
Yeah, Maidstone. Yes, we're in Kent.
So we might have to sort of have an outdoor meetup somewhere.
In person.
Yeah, it would be lovely to meet up with you. And
definitely. And if we find ourselves in the valleys, then we can hook up with Dave as well.
Yeah, you come and see me. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think Sue's planning a bit of a road trip at some point. She's going to visit all the people we've interviewed, and she's going to go all the way around the country. You know,
I've got. Now there's an idea.
Sue in a little camper van, and you could just do a little sort of podcast from wherever you are.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. Yeah, Sue, get yourself a van, do a bit of a road trip, podcast along the way.
I'll have to add that to my vision board.
That's always been a thing of mine. I've always wanted to just have a camper van. It's that freedom, isn't it? You know, and just be able to take yourself off somewhere.
That sense of freedom. Yeah, brilliant. Oh, Lorraine, lovely. Thank you for coming on today, Dave.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Lorraine,
for joining us again. Gracing me with your presence, Dave. It's every week. It is just so delightful. If anyone out there has got a habit or habits that they would like to talk about in anything, in mind, body, soul, the world, then please do get in touch with, I say myself, us, but I say myself, as I'm the diary person. So do contact me, Sue Allsworth, Authentic Smile. Check us out on YouTube, subscribe to the Authentic Smile YouTube channel, and you can catch the Get in the Habit podcast on, I think, most platforms these days.
It's everywhere. Yeah, it's everywhere. I went in the corner shop the other day and it was in there as well. It's everywhere. So
brilliant. So, and Lorraine, if people want to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
So probably the easiest ones are via the website. So one is healingtreetherapy.net. And then we've got Club Chi is club-chi.co.uk. And on there, within the website, says our contact details and email contact and stuff.
Awesome. Brilliant.
Yeah, we'll put those in the notes. And, if people want to get in touch, that'd be fantastic. Yeah.
Lovely.
Lorraine, been lovely to meet you, Lorraine. Thanks very much for coming along.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Take care, everyone. Bye.